The rain pelted my face as I stood on the curb, my golden retriever, Max, trembling beside me, his fur matted and dripping. My husband, Tom, had just slammed the door of our home, my home. Behind us, his silhouette now a shadow through the frosted glass, entwined with hers. "You're out, Emily," he'd shouted, his voice cold as the storm soaking through my sweater, and I realized in that moment. This wasn't just betrayal, it was exile. I clutched Max's leash, my knuckles white, as the reality sank in. 10 years of marriage, countless sacrifices, and a house I'd poured my soul into decorating, now stripped away because Tom had chosen her. Lila, his co-worker, with her coy smiles and whispered promises. The neighbors' curtains twitched, eyes peering from behind blinds, but no one came out to help. I was alone, save for Max, who pressed his wet nose against my hand, grounding me as my world crumbled. But I wasn't broken. Not yet. As lightning cracked the sky, something ignited inside me, a spark of defiance. They thought they could discard me, leave me with nothing but my dog and a suitcase. They were wrong. I straightened, wiped the rain from my eyes, and made a vow. I'd take back what was mine, and they'd regret underestimating me. The next morning, the storm had cleared, leaving a crisp autumn air that smelled of possibility. I sat in a coffee shop, Max curled at my feet, as I stared at the deed to the house. It was in my name. Tom had insisted on it years ago, a gesture of trust when we were still in love. Now, it was my weapon. I called my lawyer, Sarah, a sharp woman with a knack for turning desperation into strategy. "Sell it," I told her, my voice steady. "Sell the house, and make it quick." Sarah didn't hesitate. "You sure, Emily? This is a big move." Her tone was cautious, but I could hear the excitement beneath it. She knew I was done playing the victim. I nodded, though she couldn't see me. I want it gone before they realize what's happening. By noon, she'd contacted a real estate agent, and by evening, a for sale sign was staked in the front yard, bold and unapologetic. Tom and Lila were still inside, oblivious, probably tangled in the sheets of my bedroom. The thought twisted my stomach, but I pushed it down. I wasn't doing this for revenge, not entirely. This was about reclaiming my power, about showing them that I wasn't the weak, discarded wife they thought I was. Max whined softly, sensing my tension, and I scratched his ears, whispering, "We're going to be okay, buddy." The first open house was scheduled for the weekend, and I made sure to be there, not as a spectator, but as the owner, standing tall with Max by my side. Potential buyers streamed in, their murmurs filling the air as they admired the hardwood floors I'd chosen, the kitchen I'd remodeled. Tom emerged from the bedroom, disheveled, his face paling when he saw the crowd. "What the hell is this?" he demanded, his voice rising over the chatter. I smiled, calm and cutting. "I'm selling the house, Tom. You wanted me out? Well, I'm taking it all with me." His jaw dropped, and Lila appeared behind him, her eyes wide with panic. They hadn't expected this. They thought they'd won. But I was just getting started. The open house was a success. Offers poured in, each one higher than the last. I accepted the highest bid, a cash offer from a young couple eager to start their life in my house. The closing was set for 2 weeks, and I worked with Sarah to ensure every detail was ironclad. Tom tried to call, leaving voicemails that ranged from pleading to furious, but I didn't answer. Let him stew. Let him realize what he'd lost. Meanwhile, I found a small apartment across town, a cozy place with a yard for Max. It wasn't the sprawling suburban home I'd built, but it was mine, free of Tom's shadow. As I unpacked, I felt lighter, like I was shedding the weight of a decade of compromises. Max bounded around the new space, his tail wagging, and I laughed for the first time in days. This was a fresh start, but I wasn't done with Tom and Lila yet. By the time the sale closed, the news had spread through our small town. Friends who hadn't spoken to me in weeks started calling, their voices thick with guilt or curiosity. "Did you really sell the house out from under them?" one asked. I didn't bother explaining. Let them talk. Let the story grow. I knew the truth. I'd taken back my life, and I was only beginning to show them what I was capable of. The closing day arrived like a storm of its own, swift and unstoppable. I stood in the lawyer's office, signing the final papers as the new owners beamed, their excitement a stark contrast to the knot in my chest. Max sat by my side, his steady presence anchoring me as I handed over the keys to the house I'd once called home. Tom had tried to stop it, of course. He'd shown up at Sarah's office the day before, his face red with desperation, demanding to know how I could do this. "It's our house, Emily," he'd shouted, as if he hadn't thrown me out into the rain. I'd looked him in the eye, my voice low but firm. "It was my house, Tom. You made your choice. Now live with it." He'd stormed off, muttering threats, but Sarah assured me he had no legal ground. The deed was mine, the sale was final, and Tom and Lila had until noon to vacate. I didn't stick around to watch them leave. I didn't need to. The image of their stunned faces when they saw the sold sticker on the sign was enough. I moved into my new apartment that afternoon, the movers hauling in the few belongings I'd taken: a couch, some books, and Max's favorite bed. The space felt small but alive, filled with the promise of a life I'd build on my own terms. As I unpacked, my phone buzzed with a text from an old friend, Jenna, who'd heard about the sale. "You're a legend," she wrote. "Drinks tonight." I smiled, typing back a quick yes. Maybe I wasn't as alone as I'd thought. That night, Jenna and I sat at a bar, the clink of glasses and laughter filling the air. She leaned in, her eyes wide. "Tell me everything. How did it feel to pull the rug out from under them?" I sipped my wine, letting the question settle. "It felt like justice," I said finally. "But it's not over. I want them to feel what I felt: lost, exposed, powerless." Jenna raised an eyebrow. "What's next, then?" I didn't have a full plan yet, but the wheels were turning. Selling the house was just the first step. Tom and Lila had built their affair on lies, and I wanted those lies to unravel. I wanted the world to see who they really were. The next morning, I woke to a voicemail from Lila. Her voice was shaky, pleading. "Emily, please, can we talk? This is all a misunderstanding." I deleted it without responding. A misunderstanding? No. She'd known exactly what she was doing when she slipped into my life, my home, my bed. But her desperation gave me an idea. I called Sarah again, this time with a new request. "Can we dig into Tom's finances?" I asked. "I want to know what he's been hiding." Sarah's voice crackled with intrigue. "You think he's got secrets?" I didn't just think, I knew. Tom had always been cagey about money, insisting he'd handle the bills while I managed the house. Now, I wondered what else he'd kept from me. Sarah worked fast, hiring a forensic accountant to comb through Tom's accounts. Within days, she had a report. Tom had been funneling money into a separate account for months, likely to fund his life with Lila. The accountant found evidence of lavish dinners, hotel stays, even a down payment on a car I'd never seen. My blood boiled, but I stayed calm. This was ammunition. I decided to leak the information, not to the public, not yet, but to Lila's sister, Claire, who I'd always liked. Claire was married, with 2 kids, and she'd never approved of Lila's reckless behavior. I sent her an anonymous email with just enough details to spark curiosity: dates, amounts, and a suggestion that she ask Lila about her new lifestyle. I didn't need to say more. Claire would do the rest. A week later, Jenna called with gossip. Claire confronted Lila, she said, barely containing her excitement. Apparently, it was a screaming match. "Claire's furious, says Lila's been lying to everyone." I leaned back in my chair, Max's head resting on my knee, and smiled. The cracks were forming, just as I'd hoped. But Tom wasn't done fighting. He showed up at my apartment unannounced, banging on the door until Max barked, hackles raised. "Emily, open the door," he yelled. I stood behind it, my heart pounding but my resolve firm. "Go away, Tom," I called. "You've got nothing left to say." He left after a few minutes, but not before shouting, "This isn't over." I knew it wasn't, but I was ready. Tom's threats lingered in the air like smoke, but I refused to let them choke me. I'd already taken the house. Now I was after the truth, and it was unraveling faster than I'd expected. Max sensed my focus, his brown eyes watching me as I pored over the accountant's reports, each line a betrayal laid bare. Claire's confrontation with Lila had set off a chain reaction. Word spread through our social circle, whispers turning into outright accusations. Lila's reputation was fraying, and Tom's wasn't far behind. I didn't need to fan the flames. The truth was doing that for me. But I wasn't content to sit back. I wanted them to face the consequences of their choices, not just in whispers, but in ways that stung. I met with Sarah again, this time at her office, a sleek space that smelled of coffee and ambition. "What else can we do?" I asked, spreading the financial reports on her desk. She tapped a pen against her lips, her eyes scanning the numbers. "Tom's been sloppy," she said. "This separate account, it's not just personal spending. There's a pattern here, almost like he's hiding assets." "Hiding assets?" I leaned forward, my pulse quickening. "Like what?" Sarah explained that Tom's transfers suggested he was preparing for a life beyond our marriage, possibly even planning to leave me with nothing. The car, the hotel stays, they were just the surface. There were investments, small but significant, tied to Lila's name. "If we can prove he's been siphoning marital funds," Sarah said, "you could claim a portion in court." I didn't care about the money, not really, but I cared about justice. "Do it," I told her. "File whatever you need to. I want him to know he can't just walk away." Sarah nodded, already drafting the paperwork. I left her office feeling lighter, like I was finally taking control of the narrative. That evening, I took Max for a walk in the park near my apartment. The leaves crunched under my feet, and the air was sharp with the scent of fall. A woman approached, someone I vaguely recognized from Tom's office. "Emily," she said, her voice hesitant. "I just wanted to say I'm sorry. We all thought you and Tom were solid." I nodded, unsure what to say. Then she added, "Lila's been bragging about their new life. It's disgusting." Her words hit like a spark. Lila was still playing the victor, even as her world crumbled. I thanked the woman and walked on, my mind racing. Lila's arrogance was her weakness, and I could use it. I called Jenna, who had a knack for getting people to talk. "Find out what Lila's been saying," I said. "I want to know how deep this goes." Jenna didn't need convincing. She was already on the hunt, her gossip network more effective than any private investigator. By the next day, Jenna had dirt. Lila had been telling anyone who'd listened that she and Tom were starting over, that I'd been holding him back. She'd even hinted at a new house, one they'd buy with their money. I laughed when Jenna told me, a bitter sound that startled Max. Their money? It was my money, funneled from our joint accounts. Lila was delusional, and Tom was complicit. I decided to confront Lila myself, not in anger, but with precision. I found her at a cafe she frequented, sitting alone with a latte, scrolling through her phone. She looked up as I approached, her face paling. "Emily," she stammered, "what are you doing here?" I sat across from her, my voice calm but sharp. "You think you've won, Lila? You think you can take my life and walk away clean?" She opened her mouth to protest, but I cut her off. "I know about the money, the car, the investments. It's all coming out, and when it does, you'll have nothing." Her eyes widened, fear replacing her usual smugness. I stood, leaving her with one final thought. You picked the wrong woman to cross. As I walked away, Max trotting beside me, I felt a surge of power. Lila's confidence was crumbling, and Tom's would follow. But I wasn't done. The court filings Sarah prepared were just the beginning. I wanted them to face the world, exposed and accountable for every choice they'd made. The courtroom was colder than I'd expected, its sterile walls amplifying the tension in the air. I sat beside Sarah, Max waiting in the car with Jenna, as the judge reviewed our case. Tom sat across the room, his tie crooked, his eyes avoiding mine. Lila wasn't there. She had no legal standing, but I knew she'd feel the fallout. Sarah had filed a motion to recover the misappropriated funds, arguing that Tom's transfers were a deliberate attempt to defraud me. The evidence was damning. Bank statements, receipts, even emails between Tom and Lila planning their future. The judge's expression was unreadable, but I could see Tom squirming, his lawyer whispering frantically in his ear. When it was my turn to speak, I stood, my voice steady despite the knot in my throat. "Your Honor, I built a life with this man. I trusted him, and he threw me out, me and my dog, for someone else, while hiding our money to fund their affair. I didn't look at Tom. I didn't need to. The truth was enough." The judge ruled in my favor, ordering Tom to repay half the diverted funds and freezing his accounts until he complied. It wasn't just a financial win. It was a public humiliation. The local paper picked up the story, a small blurb that grew into a full article as gossip spread. Local man's affair costs him house, fortune, the headline read. I didn't read the comments, but Jenna told me they were brutal. Tom called again, his voice raw with panic. "Emily, you're ruining me," he shouted. I let him ramble, then said, "You ruined yourself, Tom. I'm just making sure everyone knows it." I hung up, my hands shaking but my heart steady. Max nudged my leg, sensing my unease, and I knelt to hug him, his warmth grounding me. Lila's fall was quieter, but no less devastating. Claire had cut her off, refusing to let her near her kids until she got her act together. Friends stopped inviting her to gatherings, and her social media went silent. I didn't pity her, she'd made her choices. But I couldn't help wondering if she'd seen this coming, or if she'd truly believed she could steal my life without consequence. With the court case behind me, I focused on rebuilding. I enrolled in a business course, something I'd always wanted to do but put off for Tom's career. The classes were challenging, but they lit a fire in me I hadn't felt in years. Max came with me to campus, charming the other students, and I started to feel like myself again. Not the wife, not the victim, but Emily, whole and unbroken. Jenna kept me updated on Tom and Lila's unraveling. They'd moved into a cramped apartment, their new life reduced to bickering over bills. Tom's job was on the line. His boss didn't take kindly to the publicity. Lila, meanwhile, was scrambling to save face, but the town had turned on her. I didn't revel in their misery, but I didn't shy away from it either. They'd earned it. One evening, as I walked Max through the park, I saw a familiar figure, Tom's mother, Ellen. She approached slowly, her face lined with regret. "Emily, I'm so sorry," she said, her voice breaking. "I didn't know he'd do this to you." I nodded, unsure how to respond. Ellen had always been kind, but she'd raised the man who betrayed me. "Take care of yourself," I said, and walked away, Max's leash tight in my hand. The encounter left me unsettled, but it also clarified something. I didn't need closure from Tom's family, or even from Tom. I was building my own closure, piece by piece, with every step I took toward a new life. The house was gone, but I'd gained something better: freedom, strength, and a future I'd shape myself. The weeks after the court ruling were a blur of new beginnings. My business course consumed my days, each lecture a reminder that I was more than Tom's discarded wife. Max became a campus mascot, his wagging tail a beacon of joy as I navigated this unfamiliar world. But even as I moved forward, the past kept tugging at me, demanding one final reckoning. Jenna called with a bombshell. Lila was leaving town. "She's done," Jenna said, her voice gleeful. "No one trusts her anymore, and she and Tom are barely speaking." I pictured Lila packing her bags, her confidence shattered, and felt a twinge of satisfaction. But it wasn't enough. I wanted Tom to face me, to see the woman he'd underestimated. I didn't have to wait long. He showed up at my apartment again, this time quieter, almost broken. Max growled softly as I opened the door, but I held up a hand to calm him. Tom looked older, his eyes hollow. "Emily, I messed up," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Can we talk?" I let him in, not out of kindness but curiosity. What could he possibly say? He sat on my couch, hands clasped, and spilled a story of regret. Lila had been a mistake. He'd been lost. He wanted to make things right. I listened, my face impassive, until he finished. Then I leaned forward, my voice cold. "You threw me out, Tom. You chose her. There's no going back." He flinched, but I wasn't done. "You thought I'd break, but I didn't. I sold the house. I took back my life. And now you're sitting here, begging, because you've got nothing left." He opened his mouth to speak, but I cut him off. "Leave, Tom, and don't come back." He left without another word, and I locked the door behind him, my heart pounding with triumph. With Tom's visit behind me, I turned my focus to the future. The money from the house sale, combined with the court-ordered repayment, gave me a cushion to start something new. I'd always loved baking, a passion I'd sidelined for Tom's career. Now, I saw an opportunity. I enrolled in a culinary program, specializing in artisanal bread, and began dreaming of a small bakery, a place where Max could nap in the corner while I needed dough. The idea grew, taking shape with every late-night sketch of logos and menus. Jenna became my unofficial cheerleader, dragging friends to taste my test batches. "You're going to kill it," she said, her mouth full of sourdough. I laughed, but her belief in me felt like a lifeline. For the first time in years, I was building something for myself, not for Tom or our marriage. Meanwhile, Tom's life continued to unravel. Jenna reported that he'd lost his job, the publicity from the court case too much for his employer to ignore. He was living alone now, Lila gone to who knows where. Part of me wondered if I should feel guilty, but the thought passed quickly. They'd made their choices, and I'd made mine. One afternoon, as I walked Max through the neighborhood, I saw the old house. The new owners had painted it blue, a color I'd always wanted but Tom had vetoed. It looked vibrant, alive, like it had finally found its place. I smiled, scratching Max's ears. "We did good, buddy," I whispered. The house was no longer mine, but it had given me the strength to start over. As winter approached, I leased a small storefront for the bakery. It was a risk, but one I was ready to take. I spent my evenings painting the walls, Max sprawled on a blanket, watching me work. The space was small, but it was mine, a testament to everything I'd overcome. And as I hung a sign in the window, "Emily's Bread," I felt a surge of pride. This was my story now, and I was writing it myself. The bakery's grand opening was a week away, and the air buzzed with anticipation. I spent my days perfecting recipes, the scent of fresh bread filling the small shop as Max lounged by the counter, his tail thumping against the floor. But even as I poured myself into this new chapter, the past wasn't done with me yet. Jenna burst into the bakery one morning, her eyes wide with news. "You won't believe this," she said, waving her phone. "Tom's been arrested." My heart skipped, not out of fear, but disbelief. "Arrested? For what?" Jenna explained. Tom had been caught forging documents to secure a loan, likely to dig himself out of debt. The irony wasn't lost on me. He'd tried to rebuild his life with lies, just as he'd destroyed ours. I didn't seek him out, didn't need to. The news was everywhere, a final nail in the coffin of his reputation. Friends who'd stayed silent during our divorce reached out, offering apologies and support. I accepted them graciously but kept my focus on the bakery. Tom's downfall was his own doing. I had a future to build. The grand opening was a triumph. The line stretched down the block, neighbors and strangers alike drawn by the smell of sourdough and the story of my comeback. Jenna worked the counter, her laughter infectious, while Max greeted customers with wagging enthusiasm. By the end of the day, we'd sold out, and my heart swelled with a pride I hadn't felt in years. That evening, as I cleaned the shop, a woman walked in, Claire, Lila's sister. She looked tired, her eyes red-rimmed. "Emily, I owe you an apology," she said, her voice soft. "I didn't know how bad it was with Lila. I should have done more." I shook my head, offering her a loaf of bread. "You don't owe me anything, Claire. We're all just trying to move forward." She smiled, a small, grateful thing, and left with the bread tucked under her arm. As the weeks passed, the bakery became a community hub. Regulars shared their stories, their own heartbreaks and triumphs, and I realized I wasn't alone in my resilience. Max, ever the charmer, became a fixture, his presence a reminder that love, real, unconditional love, could carry you through anything. One night, as I locked up, I got a call from Sarah. "There's one more thing," she said. "The accountant found another account Tom hid. It's not much, but it's yours if you want to pursue it." I thought about it, then shook my head. "Let it go," I told her. "I've got everything I need." And I meant it. The bakery, Max, my new life, it was enough. I walked home under the stars, Max trotting beside me, his leash swinging lightly. The town felt different now, not a place of betrayal, but one of possibility. I'd lost a marriage, a house, a life I thought I'd wanted. But in their place, I'd found something better, myself. I hadn't heard from Tom in months, and Lila was a ghost, her name rarely mentioned. The town had moved on, and so had I. But one morning, as I needed dough, a letter arrived, slipped under the door. It was from Tom, Handwritten, the ink smudged in places. He was out on bail, working a low-level job, trying to rebuild. "I'm sorry, Emily," he wrote. "I see now what I lost. I hope you're happy." I read the letter twice, then set it aside. Happiness wasn't something I needed his permission for. I tore the letter into pieces and tossed it in the trash, Max watching with a tilt of his head. "We don't need his apologies, do we?" I said, scratching his ears. He barked softly, as if in agreement. The bakery became more than a business. It was a sanctuary. I hired a young woman, Mia, who'd escaped her own toxic relationship, and together we built a space where people felt safe, seen. Customers shared their stories, and I shared mine, not as a victim, but as a survivor. The "for sale" sign that had once marked my defiance now hung on the bakery wall, a reminder of how far I'd come. One afternoon, Jenna dragged me to a local art fair, insisting I needed a break. As we wandered through stalls, I spotted a painting, a woman and a dog, standing strong against a stormy sky. It was us, Max and me, captured in vibrant color. I bought it without hesitation, hanging it in the bakery as a testament to our journey. By summer, I'd expanded the bakery, adding a small patio where Max could lounge in the sun. The business was profitable, but more than that, it was meaningful. I'd turned pain into purpose, betrayal into strength. And as I looked out at the customers, the community I'd built, I realized something. Tom and Lila hadn't destroyed me. They'd set me free. The final surprise came on a quiet evening as I closed the shop. A man walked in, older, with kind eyes. "I'm David," he said, extending a hand. "I bought your house." My heart stuttered, but he smiled. "I just wanted to say thank you. That house, it's our home now, and we love it." I nodded, tears prickling my eyes. "I'm glad," I said, and meant it. As David left, I locked the door and turned to Max, who was waiting patiently. "Let's go home, buddy," I said, and we stepped into the evening, the future wide open before us. They'd thrown me out with my dog beside me, but I'd sold the house and built a life they'd never understand. And that was the sweetest victory of all.